Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long Boys Blues, 1975. A YouTuber is on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends music about Long Boys Blues, 1975.
Hey YouTube, Longboys Post 1975, and welcome to the Wednesday vlog. Yeah, something a little bit different, not so much a Wednesday vlog, but more of a top 10 list. Well, no, not more of a top 10 list, a top 10 list. You've read the title, my 10 favourite movies of all time. Now, you might be thinking, where did that come from? It's quite interesting because one of the, the requests I get more often than not, quite regularly, is dude, we always know what your favourite movie of all time is. You talk about it all the time, you go on about it all the time, you reference it in your videos, in your gameplays, in your pickups. It's a given that, there's people in the Antarctic that know that the greatest movie of all time in Dave's world is Back to the Future. But what's interesting is, people always want to know, well, what are the rest of your favourite movies? Your top 10 favourite movies to be specific, because we all have favourite movies, but I think it's safe to say that we all, the most precious statement you can make of your favourite movies is to narrow down a top 10. Not very easy. Mine are set in stone, albeit they kind of drift in and out of that sequence depending on what I feel like at the time, but are still my 10 favourite movies of all time. Now, I thought it was a bit odd that I get asked this, but then I think it comes down to the fact that when I watch channels I like, even if it's something that never talks about movie but just does games or something completely unrelated to gaming, people that interest you, that entertain you, it's a given that you automatically want to compare, or just find out what their likes are compared to yours. So yeah, I thought I would do it. It's not going to be massively in-depth. I'm just going to, go through the movies. So, obviously the first one, and this is the 2010 trilogy, but I'm talking about the first one, because stipulations. You might be wondering, well, I'm telling you now, so spoilers, why Star Wars trilogy, original trilogy, obviously, that's a no-brainer, and Indiana Jones trilogy aren't in here. Because simply 6 spots would be taken up. I absolutely adore those movies, but I kind of got more for my favourite movies exempting them, if that makes sense, because otherwise, I've got 4 spaces left. That's not to say I don't love those movies amongst my favourites. They probably actually, maybe wouldn't make my top 10. I don't know. You didn't hear that. Gale Force wins. We got the tail end of the storm from the States. Thankfully not as bad as them. Stay safe, all my American friends. We've just got buckets of rain and Gale Force winds. So you can't hear it, but I can hear shit flying around outside. Don't hit my car, shit. Anyway, yeah, so the first one is Back to the Future. I won't go too much into this, other than the fact that everyone knows I absolutely adore this movie, and adored this movie from day one. Saw this in the cinema from day one. Honest to God, it has never changed. How many people can say that literally from day one their favourite movie is just stayed there solidly at number 1? Quite frankly, as close as you'll get to the perfect, if not the perfect movie, is basically what it is. So yeah, so we're not going to go too much into that. That was it, obviously. The second one, people kind of know. I've referenced it a few times. I haven't massively gone into detail on it. In a couple of Highlander gameplays, I did one yesterday, I think, or day before. I've really got to stop saying so much. When I watch this back in edit, I cringe. Almost did it then. Yeah, Highlander. Highlander is my second favourite movie of all time. Pretty much like Back to the Future. When I saw it, it was just absolutely up there. You're going to understand when you watch the majority of these movies basically kind of determine my age. I think that might be the same for a lot of us, but yeah, something about Highlander was just absolutely funny. Not funny, fantastic. Funny would be the sequels, because they're all fucking god-awful. Don't make a sequel to a movie. Well, you could argue that they did it with Back to the Future, but then I guess that's why the Back to the Future sequels didn't make my top 10, but they don't make a movie that's closed off. But yeah, immortals travelling down through time, basically drawn to each other, having to kill each other, claiming their life force until there's only one left. Christophe Lambert's second movie, well, first was Greystoke, wasn't it? Second movie, I don't think he could speak English in it, and he actually learnt the script phonetically. Just absolutely wonderful. It's because of the time traveling, much like Back to the Future, or time traveling, different time periods of it, nature. It's just aged absolutely brilliant, absolutely bitter-sweet. If you haven't seen Highlander, you really, really need to sort your life out. Fantastic soundtrack by Queen, so emotional, and just it's one of those movies as a kid that blew me away. I think the first time I saw it was on Sky Movies when we just got Sky Movies, and taped it off and then just watched it religiously until I bought the cassette, and then so forth and so on with DVDs and stuff like that. But yeah, as a kid, it was the first time where you were kind of forced to think about the reality that, because no one wants to die, but then you think, well, immortality, it's not necessarily a blessing, it could be a curse. This is a departure. I think this is one of only two movies that aren't from the 80s, but this, again, a movie that just shot straight up there when I first saw it. I absolutely adore, this is number 3, The Crow with Brandon Lee. I got to slant it so there's no Mackie glare from my lights. Brilliant movie, made more bittersweet. I mean, it would have been a fantastic movie. It is a fantastic movie if he hadn't sadly passed away. And it's a great shame that he passed away. Much like his father, this was the movie that finally brought him to the masses. But yeah, he's a rock star. He dies. Sorry, people. Spoilers. Comes back as the Crow to seek vengeance. I think it's safe to say, more so because he passed away. The scene when he comes out of the coffin is just. It's incredibly eerie, but absolutely amazing sound. The soundtrack to this movie is amazing and superb, and the actors in it are absolutely fantastic. The visuals are stunning. Brandon Lee gives an amazing performance. Ernie Hudson is absolutely fantastic in it. It just drips with style. It was just absolutely fantastic. It was a completely different superhero movie than what was around at the time, because obviously it's based on the original James O'Barr kitchen sink press miniseries from way back in the 80s, and the reason it's so dark is the book, and I thoroughly recommend the original graphic novel, because that is really dark. That was written as a grieving process when his girlfriend died in a car accident, and so there's great similarities between his loss in that and Eric's loss in this. So yeah, that's probably one of the only two that came from the 90s. Now, this is my number 4 movie. This is just absolute bloody classic. All of these have really good soundtracks so far. That would be An American Werewolf in London. Yes, these are all Blu-ray. For my favourite movies, I'll buy them on Blu-ray. If they're not, up there, then I just buy them on regular DVD. Again, sick and tired of companies ripping us off with this. Do you like special features, Dave? I know you do. Well, you can't have it on regular DVD anymore. You have to pay an extra £5 and get it on Blu-ray. Fuck you! That's them fucking me, not me saying it to them, because it does drive me up the wall. But the 20th anniversary of this is fantastic, which is this. 2 Americans hitchhiking in the moors, basically get attacked by a werewolf. What's interesting is the two actors playing the American students at the start, or backpackers, weren't actually actors, and the whole scenes on the moor, when you know this makes it even more amazing, were ad-libbed. That is unbelievable. Get attacked by a werewolf. It's directed by John Landis. It's one of the first movies that made me realise, particularly as a kid, when I begged my parents to watch it, because everyone else had seen it at school and we haven't. They were like, all right then, you get nightmares, it's not on us. Pfft, I won't get nightmares. Scared the fucking piss out of me. And we used to have to go to Cub Scouts, and we used to have to go down the road and then cross over common ground to the hall. And it used to be night time, and it used to be a full moon, and there were dogs barking because there were farms around there. I used to shit my pants and just run. It had such an effect on me. But yeah, amazing special effects, particularly when Jack comes back the first time because he's trapped in penance until the bloodline of the werewolf, which is in David, is stopped. Again, people, I put it right at the start, there are spoilers in this. And he's got a little hole in his neck and there's flappy bits of skin and massive claw marks stand there. But great sense of humour, absolutely stunning special effects, and just a bittersweet ending where you just realise, wow, there is no happy ending here. Fantastic. Next movie left a massive mark on me as a kid, because my parents wouldn't let us watch it. They wouldn't they wouldn't rent it for us, and my auntie at the time lived next door, so she used to look after us when my parents both worked during the holidays, and we used to go around there, and she used to drive us to this video rental store called the Bottle and Jar, that was basically an off-license, buys loads of pop, crisps, sweets and shit like that, rent us a movie, and then we watch it at her house. That was a done now. This absolutely blew me away. Again, when it was on Sky Movies years later, I recorded it and destroyed my VHS copy of it. But I think it's safe to say, like many of these movies, it's the movie that made Schwarzenegger, a relentless killing machine sent back from the future to kill Sarah Connor before she gives birth to John Connor, who is leader of the Resistance, will ultimately rise up and destroy the machines. One of the first movies that properly introduced that head-fuck time travel mechanic of cause and effect, and definitely, spoilers for Terminator Genesis, was alright. When they mix things up in that movie and change things around with John Connor, it's just like, to make it a reboot, no you can't, because even though it's in the future at that point, and that was the whole point of the mindfuck in this movie, is it's already happened. So that's the most disappointing about Genesis, but then that ain't even in my top 5,000 movies. I mean, it's not terrible, but it certainly isn't a Terminator movie. But yeah, just Arnold's portrayal in this. I think he single-handedly invented the sort of lone, no pun intended, Terminator figure, unstoppable killing machine, not necessarily a machine, although he is in this. Great special effects for the time. Bearing in mind that I think it was filmed by James Cameron on $6 million US, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I adore that movie. These are really shaping up to be kind of a cliche of the period I grew up in. So what was that? Number 6, Aliens. Oh my god, saw Alien after I saw Aliens, I think, but I did know it was a sequel to Alien. I did understand the premise, which was there was more of them this time. So if one was absolutely badass and unstoppable in the first movie, what would you fucking do with tons and tons and tons of them? Obviously different director, James Cameron again. Hey look, 2 of his movies are in my top 10. Went with a different route, which was brilliant, which is, right, yeah, like I said, let's go with the military route. You know, these Marines are unstoppable, they're badass, what would they do against these people? Claustrophobic, dark, fast-paced. You could argue not quite as scary or as intense as the first movie, which is basically a haunted house movie in space. But, you know, has its moments, fantastic special effects. The guns, the M41A Pulse Rifle was one of my favourite movie guns of all time. And I think they're actually built by British Aerospace. But don't quote me on that. Just, you know, it's just got so many great scenes. The aliens are truly terrifying. They're just swarmed, you know, superbly directed. Every actor in this is absolutely fantastic. I love Hudson in this, especially his breakdown moments. Just, don't get me wrong, as a kid, while it's not as scary as the original one, which I didn't know until after I saw this, you know, it did scare the piss out of me. Again, another movie that was on Sky one Christmas Eve or Christmas Day night when we were kids, and we taped it. But I adore Aliens. I absolutely adore. This was one of the first movies that introduced it. The special edition, or the, you know, the extended cut with 17 extra minutes that totally make it a different movie. Particularly with Ripley's daughter and the fact that she was now deceased at an age that was older than Ripley. Not in real time, because obviously Ripley was in suspended animation, but you know what I mean. God, we really are getting into classic 80s territory. Really can't remember the numbers for some reason. The Lost Boys. Everyone loves The Lost Boys. I think this must be in most people of my age or my generation that grew up in the 80s. Top 10 movies. Just it reinvented the wheel for the vampire. You know, it was, why do they have to live in coffins, which they actually, you know, take away in this movie? Why do they have to live in coffins? Well, you know, why can't they be like a bunch of cocky, you know, kids and shit like that? Another movie with an absolutely fantastic soundtrack. Like, I wore my fucking a genuine copy out of my Walkman when I was a kid. Kiefer Sutherland is superb in this. Family moves into Santa Carla, which to, you know, start a new life. I think she's just got divorced or something, to stay with her granddad, and it's the murder capital of the world. The oldest son falls in with his biker gang, not knowing they're vampires, led by Kiefer Sutherland. The youngest son falls in with these people who are vampire hunters, the Frog Brothers. Amazing movie, amazing music, amazing set pieces, brilliant special effects, absolutely hilarious. I mean, you know, just a couple of lines like, what's it, garlic don't work, boys. I'll try holy water, death breath, and death by stereo. And I won't spoil this, but one of the greatest twists ever. I adore this movie, hence the fact it's in my top 10. I really am a child of the 80s. Right, number 8. They were disappointed with this edition because it's the 30th anniversary edition and there's fuck all special features. There's no special features, in fact. At least it's cleaned up. The Breakfast Club. Oh, this movie was a rite of passage as a kid. We all sympathise with these children, all from different areas of the school. You know, you got your jock, you got your nerd, you got your outcast, you got your dodgy criminal bloke, you know, and you got your teacher who's just an absolute hard ass, and they're forced to spend a whole Saturday in detention. And even though they come from different worlds and stuff like that, during the day they basically bond with each other and find out, you know, that they aren't so different after all, and they don't, and they have preconceptions of what everyone is like, but don't understand what is underneath the surface. And everyone does have different problems, and not necessarily an easy life, and that you shouldn't judge people for what they are, because you never know what is underneath. Brilliant. Even to this day, it moves me so much, especially at the end, especially when Judd Nelson, you know, you hear all of them read out the letter that the guy writes to their teacher, then Judd Nelson raises his arm. Absolutely fantastic, shit hot soundtrack. This is an absolutely amazing soundtrack, and the title track sends shivers down my spine. Now this is an interesting one, because this is my favourite martial art movie of all time, so it might sound odd that it comes in so far down my top 10, because it is, you know, at number 9 in my top 10 favourite movies. Another groundbreaking, changing, pioneering movie. Sadly that the actor passed away before he got to realise it. He finally put in his dues, you know, after being shafted by Hong Kong in the Green Hornet. Yeah, it's Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. Going back to Hong Kong, making, Asian movies that and then were massively successful in England. Then going back to Warner Brothers and making this collaboration movie with Golden Harvest and Warner Brothers. And sadly passing away, and never, you know, seeing that he actually fulfilled his dream. Enter the Dragon is an amazing movie. It was a wake-up call to everyone in the West, although I think it's safe to say they got a slap in the face seeing stuff like, you know, Where the Dragon, Big Boss, Chinese Connection, stuff like that. But it was a martial art movie on a scale that Hollywood had never seen before. And they, you know, it showed all these old school people that, you know, these Chinese martial artist actors were bankable. It showed Bruce Lee's, you know, vision. His input in the movie is superb. The fights are absolutely fantastic. And finally, after the year 2000, we actually got a version where they didn't cut the fucking nunchucks out, because apparently the BBFC thought that everyone would learn nunchucks and going around killing fucking everyone. Perish the thought. You didn't even need ID at the time to go into a store and buy a fucking steak knife, which would be easier to use than nunchucks, because if you've ever used them without learning them, you will know that you fuck up with them. It's your own nose you break. But yeah, this movie is absolutely, it's superb. And being someone who did grow up on Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, and all my mates were Bruce Lee fans, and you know, he was the reason we all went to either taekwondo or karate, hung around in mates' garages on their punching bags, speedballs and floor-to-ceiling balls and stuff like that. Just, I'm pretty sure everyone's seen this movie, but if you haven't, and it's a properly remastered version on Blu-ray, it's definitely worth it. But it's an absolutely superb movie. Now this one will probably surprise people quite a lot. Maybe not so much if you've actually seen the extent of my war film collection. Sounds terrible when you say it like that. You know, war, great. No, I'm one of those people who thinks you should learn from history, because what is it? If you don't learn from history, you're destined to repeat it. When people say like it was so long ago, it's not important, it's not relevant. No, it is, because people, whether you knew them or not, or cannot, you know, envision what they went through, ultimately laid down their lives and died to provide you with the freedoms you have now. And that leads into this. So the more realistic a movie, a better, just so you can get some sense of perspective of what they sacrificed and, you know, what they went through. And that would be Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. There were many war movies, you know, and gritty ones such as Platoon and Hamburger Hill and stuff like that, way back before this and up to this point. But I think for the first time, this one really showed, particularly on the opening scene in Normandy. Well, I think they actually, didn't Spielberg actually cast amputees to make it that much more realistic? And people often argue as why was it a 15 and not an 18? But that opening bloodbath, absolute massacre, had never ever been portrayed in a movie quite like that. And you watch stuff on Discovery Channel, you know, and things like that, and it's easy for them to say, you know, this was horrible, and you just go, it must have been so bad, but not envisioning it because you weren't there. And it's not gonna be the same, I'm not saying it is, but it was clearly one of the most graphic, harrowing and shocking and stressful to watch portrayals of, you know, the beach landings, that it kind of, you know, brought everyone's A game up in war movies and was a big wake-up call to the public, and got lots of people, myself included, to be more into the history side of war. And yeah, it's a very, very poignant story. It's very sad in places. There's some absolutely cringeworthy moments that I find cringeworthy, as in I find them difficult to watch, but not because of bad acting, stuff like that. All I'll say is the knife scene. You know, very moving at the start, very moving at the end, and absolutely fantastic movie. So with the exception of the movies from the 80s, I think they were a given because I am a child of the 80s. Or I was born in 75, but obviously from 80 I was 5. So that's the era that was most sort of had a big impact or effect on me. So yeah, majority of them are from the 80s, but you know, you might be surprised that Enter the Dragon, Saving Private Ryan, and obviously The Crow made it in there. But that is, as requested, my top 10 favourite movies of all time. Anyway, let me know what yours are. Leave some comments down below, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.